check on your Newcastle fan friends, man, because these guys had the world right there. When they were first bought out by Saudi, they were sold the dream that they were going to replace either Arsenal or Tottenham in the Big Six. Said Saudi money, that's where it's at. We're coming for you guys. We're going to be that big club that comes back to the top with all the money that's going to be invested. Guess what, mate? You're not Man City. You don't get that free pass. Now, financial fair play rules are cracking down on them. As much as the owners want to invest into the club, there are rules that have been implemented by big English clubs to keep the pecking order the same. They said no more Leicester Cities, mate. No more big clubs coming up. You can only spend a certain amount of money. Now, because of that, they are being put in odd positions, like them wanting a striker to possibly replace Isak if they decide to sell him to Liverpool. Now, their striking options have been absolutely horrendous. At first, it was all about Ekitike. Liverpool snatched them up. Then, they never were really in talks in Gyökeres, but Gyökeres is off the market. Then, they were in for Sesko, and that doesn't really go on. So, Nicolas Jackson has emerged as their best possible option, considering all the other players that are not going to be available. Now, this man was bought for 30 million from Chelsea and flopped. Now they want 80 million. They said, oof, you don't have too many options. We're going to stick to around 80 million. At first, they said 65 million when the Sesko thing was still a coin flip. Now they said, oof, price went up, mate. Now, do I agree with that price? Nope. Not a penny over 50. That's what I said. Not a penny over 50, even with the lack of options that they have. I honestly would prefer to go to Vlahovic, possibly. Anything but 80 million for Nicolas Jackson. I might even go to Larson from Wolves. I might even say Jamie Vardy before I give 80 million for Nicolas Jackson. That's the solid truth right there. Now, Isak really wants Liverpool, but the problem is Newcastle don't want to give up Isak, even if it's for 120 million, unless they have some sort of replacement. They bought Elanga from Nottingham Forest, but they feel like they can't really get rid of Isak, who's going to be at Newcastle for, a couple more years. They don't feel like they have to sell him, but if they were to sell him, they know right now would probably be the most they can get, not next year, because it's a one more year less on that contract. And obviously injuries play a factor. Not saying he will get hurt, but there's always that risk, that liability, I'd say. So Newcastle try to get Sesko, right, to replace Isak, which would have been, fairly expensive, 80, 90 million. But Benjamin Sesko has said that he only wants Man United out of the clubs left. At first, it was a fight between Gyökeres and Sesko to go to Arsenal. Both wanted Arsenal, just that Sesko's price was a bit bigger. And even with Jurgen Klopp's words of wisdom to Sesko, he still said, no, I want United, not Newcastle. Even though it literally, if you look at Isak coming from Real Sociedad, probably close to the RB Leipzig of Spain, right? He goes to Newcastle and then he performs well, top 3 in the Golden Boot a couple years, has a great, phenomenal career in England. Now he's a top 3 striker in the Prem and he's worth over 100 million. That's a payday. He's going to get a crazy payday at Liverpool if he goes, So now my thing is, why Sesko doesn't want to replicate what Isak did if he thinks he's world class and Isak is world class? Why not replicate it? Why go to Man United, who have bought in 3 strikers, and so far those 3 strikers, not only are they young and still can turn it around at United, but have been there for a year or less, right? Continuing with the Xerxes, Højlund, and Cheetah Obi Martin, and they're already being given up on. Cheetah Obi Martin goes from Arsenal to United for a pathway, and they bought in 3 strikers. 3 strikers since he's joined. Xerxes, Højlund, and now Sesko. And then Xerxes, he gets booted out by the fans, basically. He's subbing out early, pulling on Ronaldo, going into the locker room. But the problem is, he's not Ronaldo, mate. He's not even a quarter or a penny of Ronaldo. Højlund, 71 million. He's already been given up on. And now they're bringing in Sesko. If they give up on all those 3 players, why are they going to give you preference, Benjamin Sesko, if you don't perform right away, year 1? It flabbergasted me. But at the end of the day, it's all on the Isak deal, and you have no more options for Newcastle, honestly, when it comes to striking position. And if Newcastle really want to salvage the situation, best way to go is keep Isak for a year if you can't get a decent replacement. Don't sell Isak and bring in Nicolas Jackson. At the end of the day, the only reason why you need as much money as possible for Isak is not because for other transfers, but it's to be able to use money in the future, because of the PSR rules. That's the only reason right there. But because the owners aren't a lack of money, they have a limited money. It's just the rules that were implemented don't allow them to be able to spend too much. And honestly, you feel for Newcastle's fans, because you see Man City go from a nobody club to a big club just by Saudi money. Newcastle used to be a big club, became a nobody club, and then got a hugely rich owners from Saudi, like City. You're thinking you're going to be the next City. You're getting players like Isak, Bruno Guimaraes, Donali, you're Anthony Gordon. You got an Elanga. You got all these guys, and then you can't spend that money that too much. You're because honestly, Newcastle, if they were to keep Isak, they're like 2-3 players away from really contending Big Six. Like in the last 2-3 years, they've been in the Big Six. That's a simple fact right now. But they're not allowed to spend too much. And as well as, Benjamin Sesko making an illiterate move. I get the Gyökeres to Arsenal. I get the Ekitike to Liverpool. But now Ekitike is going to look really bad right now. If I were him, I'd be regretting my move to Liverpool. If Isak gets bought over there, I would have preferred to go to Newcastle if I was Ekitike and they buy Isak, because now you've spent over 100 million on a striker, over 80 million on a striker, and you can only play one. It's a crazy situation there. I think Isak's agent is also to blame, because both Liverpool and Arsenal were in for a striker, and then you put in the transfer request after both deals are all 100% done. It's just like, mate, even if you just want Liverpool only, it's just like, mate, why do all this? It's absolutely crazy. But Newcastle fans, I genuinely feel for you. I feel like you're not being done justice, and this all results back to the corruption that Man City and the Premier League have had. That's where it goes. But anyways, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. What do you think about Nicolas Jackson and Newcastle? Personally, me, I'd rather lose 40 million on the Isak sale, keep him for another year instead of having Nicolas Jackson, and maybe another striker opportunity, opens up next year. But anyways, thank you guys for watching.